Welcome back. It is a full and busy Saturday in the National Hockey League. We have 13 games, and what's interesting is 6 of them are late games. So we've got 2 games starting at 11 o'clock Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern, and then there's a sprinkling, and then all late games. So last week, almost everything was an early start. Now they're all late starts. I'm actually kind of okay with that. So it doesn't matter. The NHL doesn't ask me. So 2 Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific start between Colorado and St. Louis. Now with the Ryan O'Reilly trade tonight, that's going to change how this game goes. I do believe, because St. Louis had been kind of rallying. So Colorado's won 2 of the first 3, although St. Louis won the first one 3-2 on November 14th. Colorado won in overtime 3-2 on December 11th. January 28th, Colorado wins 4-2. Colorado 29, 19, and 5 on the season. Their last 10 games are 6-2 and 2. They are 6 points back of Winnipeg for the top spot in that division. They are tied with Minnesota. They're 2 points ahead of Calgary. Or they're 6 points behind Winnipeg for second. Sorry. Calgary, they're 2 points clear of. So that playoff line is still close if you're Colorado. It just doesn't feel like it's much of a threat to them right now. St. Louis, on the other hand, 26, 25, and 3. Their last 10 games are 5 and 5, but they've won 3 in a row. So we'll see if they can keep it going. Again, and I mentioned this after their last win, they tend to win games when they're selling. It's strange. So they're 8 points back of Colorado and Minnesota for that final playoff spot. They're tied for third / the second wildcard spot. But they're 9 points clear of Arizona and Vancouver. So this is about tankathon. They've joined it kind of late, but we'll see how it works out for them. Also at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, the Florida Panthers and the Nashville Predators in the first of 2 meetings. They'll meet again on March the 2nd. Florida 28, 24, and 6. Their last 10 games are 5, 4, and 1. They're 1 point back of both Pittsburgh and the Islanders for that final playoff spot. They're tied with Washington just below the playoff line, and they're 2 points clear of Detroit. As the East has become one cluster of a puck of, and I did say puck like hockey puck, just that race has just been great. So Nashville, 25, 21, and 6. Their last 10 games are 6 and 4. They're 7 points back of a playoff spot behind Colorado, Minnesota. They're 1 point ahead of St. Louis. So for Nashville, they're really in this spot where the decision on whether or not they're going to sell is apparently coming. If they look at the price that's been paid for guys like Horvat and for O'Reilly, it might just be too tempting not to sell for them. But we'll see. This game tomorrow is a big one for both teams, right? Then 5 Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, we got the Islanders and the Bruins. So since these ones are 3 hours before this one, I will be reviewing these 2 by themselves. December 13th, the Islanders won in a shootout, 4-3 over the Bruins. And January 18th, Boston won over the Islanders 4-3 in a shootout. And January 18th, Boston won again 4-1. So Boston's won both meetings. They're looking for a season sweep. For the Islanders, coming off of a big comeback victory over Pittsburgh, they're 28, 23, and 7. Their last 10 games are 5, 3, and 2. They're 11 points back of the New York Rangers for third in the division. They are tied with Pittsburgh. They're currently the number 2 wild card. They're 1 point ahead of both Washington and Florida. So very precarious position, and they've played more games than the other teams they're competing with. Boston, 41, 8, and 5. Their last 10 games are 6, 3, and 1, and it feels like they're rounding back into form. They're 13 points clear of Toronto. They're 14 points clear of Tampa. They're probably going to win the division. They're already at 87 points, which is ridiculous. 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. We have the New Jersey Devils and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh, not much of a turnaround time on this one at all. And New Jersey won the first meeting 4-2 on December 30th, and on January 22nd, New Jersey won again 2-1 in overtime. The fourth and final meeting will be on April the 4th. So for New Jersey, they're 35, 14, and 5. Their last 10 games are 6-2 and 2. They're 5 points behind Carolina for top spot in the division. They are 1 point ahead of New York Rangers. That's right, the Rangers are now within a point of New Jersey. They're 12 points clear of Pittsburgh and the New York Islanders. On the Pittsburgh front, 27, 18, and 9 is their overall record. Their last 10 games are 5, 3, and 2, and that one stung tonight against the Islanders. They have to bounce back quickly here. They're 11 points back of the Rangers. They're tied with the New York Islanders in the wild card, and they're 1 point ahead of Washington and Florida. So again, that Eastern race is kind of awesome to watch, isn't it? 6 Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, the Columbus Blue Jackets in against the Dallas Stars on December 19th. Dallas won in Columbus 2-1. For Columbus, they're 17-34-4. Their last 10 games are 4-4-2. They're playing well the last 10 games. They're 12 points behind Montreal, still in last in the East. On the Dallas side, they're 30-14-12. 12. Last 10 games are 4-1-5. So they've only lost one in regulation out of their last 10, but they've only won 4 of their last 10. So it's up to you on whether you're glass half full or glass half empty. I'd like to see them win a game when it goes past 60 minutes, but I'm crazy. So they're 3 points clear of Winnipeg. They're 9 points clear of Colorado. And we'll see how things go with them home against Columbus. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific start between Montreal and Toronto. The matchup that seems to always be on a Saturday. October 12th, Montreal wins 4-3. January 21st, Montreal wins again, this time in overtime 3-2. The fourth and final meeting will be on April the 8th. Montreal 23-28-4, coming off of a rough loss their last time out, but in their last 10, they're 4-5-1. And as they've proven to Toronto twice already this year, they can beat Toronto. They're 13 points back of Pittsburgh and the Islanders for that final playoff spot. They're 12 points ahead of Columbus. So they're closer to Columbus than they are to the playoffs. Toronto 33-14-8 is their overall record. Their last 10 games are 6-3-1. They're 13 points back of Boston. They're 1 point clear of Tampa, keeping in mind Tampa does have that one game in hand. And they're 12 points ahead of Florida. So pretty firmly entrenched in that top 3 for Toronto. And picking up Ryan O'Reilly. Apparently O'Reilly and Achari should be in their lineup for their debut on Saturday. I'm looking forward to having a lot of time to watch that because there's not a lot of hockey on at that time, which is weird for a Saturday. And then at 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, the stadium game gets started. Again, the NHL burying an outdoor game in the middle of a schedule. I don't understand why they do this. I find it odd. Carolina's waited years to host this. There's been virtually no hype. And it's going to be on in the middle of everything else. So Carolina's won both matchups so far with Washington. On October 31st, they won in a shootout 3-2. And February 14th, they won 3-2, this time in regulation. Washington's 28-23-6 overall. Last 10 games are 4-6. They've lost 3 in a row. They're still without Ovechkin. And it really has hurt their attack. They're 1 point back of Pittsburgh and the Islanders for that final playoff spot. They're tied with Florida, that 1 point below, and 2 points clear of Detroit. So regulation lost by Washington, regulation lost by Florida, combined with a win for Detroit. And all of a sudden it becomes even more of a mess in the East. Carolina 36-10-8. They don't have to worry about any of that. They're 9-1 in their last 10. I'm wearing the Carolina Stadium jersey. I think they win this. They're 5 points ahead of the New Jersey Devils and 6 points ahead of the New York Rangers. So Carolina really hoping to run away and hide with the division and let everybody else fight it out in the blood feud that's going to settle who ends up being one of the wild cards. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. We got 2 games starting then, starting with the New York Rangers and the Calgary Flames. February 6th, the New York Rangers won at home 5-4 in overtime in this matchup. The Rangers 33-14-8. Their last 10 games are 8-1-1. They've won 7 in a row. They're 3 wins short of getting a video, too. Notice that the 10-game winning streak videos have disappeared for the last couple of months because teams don't usually go on those kinds of streaks later in the season. Don't turn into Squirrely Dan. Don't start making everything plural. Okay, 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're 1 point back of New Jersey. Theoretically, they could pass New Jersey tomorrow. It could happen. They're 11 points ahead of Pittsburgh and the New York Islanders. On the Calgary side, they're 25-19-11. We know that they have become a bit of a tire fire recently. Over their last 10, they're 4-4-2. They're 1 point back of Minnesota and Colorado for that final playoff spot. And really, in all honesty, no, they're 2 points back of Minnesota then, aren't they? Yeah, and 5 points clear of Nashville. It's just weird to see Calgary below the line like that, so I put -1 because I'm an optimist. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, Philadelphia in against Vancouver. Why, yes, I did do the Eastern teams in blue and the Western teams in red, because why not? So Philadelphia won 3-2 over the Canucks on October 15th. I remember that. Remember Vancouver got off to a good start, and there was a lot of Carter Hart sucks, and then the Canucks lost. So Philadelphia 22-24-10 is their overall record. Their last 10 games are 3-4-3. They're 9 points out of the playoffs now behind Pittsburgh and the Islanders. They're 4 points ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. For Vancouver, they're 21-30-4 as the losing has just really accelerated. They're 3-6-1 in their last 10, but don't worry, the underlying stats have been better since the coaching change. it doesn't feel like it makes a big difference. They're 17 points behind Colorado, Minnesota. They're tied with Arizona, so kind of rooting for an Arizona win tomorrow. They're 1 point ahead of San Jose and 6 points ahead of Anaheim. Yeah, Anaheim's within 6 points of the Vancouver Canucks now. It's crazy. Then at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, we got 4 games starting at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. I have never seen this in my time watching hockey on this channel. Starting with Arizona and LA. LA won the first meeting between these two on December 1st, 5-3. December 23rd, it's a shootout victory for Arizona, 2-1. We'll see what happens here. Arizona's 19-28-8. Their last 10 games are 5-2-3. They're 17 points back of Colorado and Minnesota. They're 1 point ahead of San Jose. So closer to the bottom than the top. On the LA side, they're 31-18-7. Their last 10 games are now 6-3-1. They're 1 point back of Vegas, 1 point ahead of Seattle, and 2 points ahead of Edmonton. I love these races. This is going to be a fantastic playoff race. So while people are kind of disappointed by, the overall trade deadline malaise, although it got better today, didn't it? The reality is that these races should go right down to the wire, and it's going to be great to watch, which is different from last season. 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific start between Buffalo and San Jose. Buffalo won this matchup December 4th at home, 6-3. Buffalo 27-22-7. Their last 10 games are 6-3-1. They're staying in the hunt. They really are. They're 5 points back of Pittsburgh and the Islanders. They're 4 points back of Washington and Florida. They're 2 points back of Detroit, but they have games in hand on almost all the teams they're chasing. So it's about winning those games, which lately has sometimes been a challenge. San Jose 17-28-11. Their last 10 games are 3-5-2. They're 18 points behind Colorado and Minnesota. They're 5 points ahead of Anaheim and just 6 points ahead of Chicago. So if you're a Sharks fan, probably pulling for Buffalo tomorrow, aren't you? And hoping that Chicago wins a couple more and Anaheim wins a couple, and maybe you get a really good shot at the number 1 draft pick. 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific start between Detroit and Seattle. This is a huge test for Detroit, although they've passed every test this week. This is the first of 2 meetings. They'll meet again in Detroit on March the 2nd. So for Detroit, they're 26-20-8. Their last 10 games are 7-3. They're 3 points out of the playoffs behind Pittsburgh and the Islanders. They're 2 points behind Washington and Florida. So they do need to jump past 2 of those teams, but they have games in hand on everybody. Seattle, on the other hand, they're 31-18-6. Their last 10 games are 4-4-2, but they're getting better again. They're 2 points behind Vegas for first in the division. They're 1 point back of LA and 1 point clear of Edmonton. So the race in Pacific is as clear as mud right now, and Seattle's right in the middle of all that mud. And then the last game we're going to preview is the 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific start between Tampa Bay and the Vegas Golden Knights. So if you're a Tampa fan, you could end up being up late. This is the first of 2 meetings. They'll meet again in Tampa on March the 9th. Tampa Bay 35-16-3. Their last 10 games are 6-2-2. They're 1 point back of Toronto, and they're 11 points ahead of Florida. On the Vegas front, they're 33-18-4 overall. Their last 10 games are 5-3-2. They're 1 point ahead of LA, 2 points ahead of Seattle, 3 points ahead of Edmonton. So, again, for Vegas, things have turned around a bit for them recently, I'd say over the last week or so. And we'll see if they can keep that going, if they can maintain their spot at the top of the Pacific. Let me know your picks in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.